คอปเตอร์โอ้ผิดอันMariam I see you คอปเตอร์โอเคค่ะหมวยโอเคค่ะตรินโอเคค่ะพัสเบสโอเคค่ะเบสจอห์นนี่โอเคค่ะฟิล์มโอเคค่ะ Mariam already นิ้งโอเคค่ะหนาวอ่ะขิมจ้ะขิมวิกลี่โอเคค่ะปัญญาจ้าโจจ้านนท์ค่ะบิ๊กเต้พิซซ่ากอล์ฟไวโอเลตค่ะตาจ้าค่ะพราวปริมสมายจ้าพิมจีนค่ะมอสจ้ายาหยีค่ะตีจ้าเบียค่ะนัทจ้าลุกเบสโอเคอิงจ้ะโอเคเกียร์ค่ะแองอนนะคะเดี๋ยวหนูค่อยบอกพี่ มี4คำถามแต่จำไม่ได้แล้วจำได้แค่นี้ Okay. I don't remember how far I inform you about this exam question, but I will repeat everything over again just to make sure that we all have it. Now guys, this is a big question in the exam, 2 to 3 points. There will be around 3 or 4 major questions within this question. Right? In the exam, I'm going to give you 2 demographic pyramids and ask you which one do you think representing the developed country, which one is representing less developed country. And we'll also ask you to look at the age group, every age group, and see how it may affect the birth rate and death rate, or how it affects the development of the economy. That's a general idea for this question. Anyway, there are 2 types of pyramid. Two types of the pyramid. The regular pyramid and the upside down one. Less developed countries always have the regular shape of the pyramid, very wide on the bottom, very narrow on the top. And the developed countries often have narrow sides on the very bottom, very wide on the top. 2 key areas that we use to look at if the country is developed or less developed. First, we look at the bottom part, or look at the young population. If the size of the young population is large, and more likely that in the near future it will get larger, it tells us that this could be a less developed country. You see that on the slide here. Very wide on the bottom, and more likely in the near future it will get wider. It will be bigger and bigger. So more likely this is a less developed country. The second key that we look at is the top part of the pyramid. If it's so small, if it's narrow like that, it tells us that the country is still less developed. The point is, in most less developed countries, governments still fail to provide basic needs to people and save people's lives. That's why a lot of people in less developed countries die at young age. They die before they reach old age. Okay? That's why you see that they have very small numbers of the old or aging population that survive until they reach age of 60 or above. Because the government still fail to provide water supply, electricity supply, health care for the old people. People did not live as long. They died at young age. That's why we don't have a lot of old people populations in less developed countries. Okay. The large size, another important thing, the large size of the young age population reflect us that the people in the country still have a demand for labor. Okay, the large size of the young age population reflect to us or tell us that the country still have a demand for labor. A country may be an agricultural country. A country may be a very conservative country. Okay, the young age population, if it's large, it tells us 3 things. First, this country could be an agricultural country. That's why they need more laborers, need more babies who can work in the farm. Okay? And that, like I said, that's a demand for labor. That's why the people keep giving birth. Not only that the labor that can work in the farm, but the labor that can work in other areas as well. The large size of the young age population can also tell us that people are quite conservative. They base their own reproductive rights. They base their own reproductive rights with their cultural beliefs and religious beliefs. Like I said, in China, I mentioned this before, in China, most Chinese people base their reproductive decision with their cultural beliefs. Having a lot of sons in the family could make the family become prosperous or become very wealthy. So the parents tend to have more numbers of children, hoping that many of them would be sons. The birth rate is high. And some Islamic countries, people highly attached to their religious beliefs. Okay? According to the Quran, it said that all humankind are children of God. You don't have the right to stop children of God to be born. It means you should not use birth control pill or contraception. That's why the birth rate is high among Islamic people in the Middle Eastern region, because they are so tied to their religious belief. So the size of the young population, once again, reflects the demand for labor, and the people in this country may be agriculturalists, and they also may be living in a very conservative kind of country where people attach to culture, where people attach to religion. Now, move on to the more developed country. Very, very narrow on the bottom. Not a lot of young age people. And more likely in the near future, the birth rate will drop down even more. These reflect to us that the people in this country prefer more for their own interests. They prefer more for their own interests. It means that they do not want to share their wealth. They do not want to share their luxury lifestyles with their children. They see children as expenses rather than assets. Okay, I mentioned this before that the people in the less developed countries, they see children as assets. But developed countries, they see children as expenses. The people in developed countries, they want to live good life, luxury lifestyle, and high standard of living. If they have more children, maybe their standard of life will drop down. So they're like, okay, let me control the numbers of the children that I should have. That's why the birth rate is very low. It's very narrow on the bottom. Very wide on the top, because the government, it reflects the idea that the government in developed countries are quite effective. They are quite effective. They provide basic needs, basic infrastructure for the people. That's why the old people live to older age. The people live to older age, they provide all kinds of health conditions. They have access to health care, access to entertainment, access to food supplies, access to job opportunity, access to income. So people could live until old age. That's why we have large numbers of population in old age. Example of the country could be European countries and Japan. Right? A lot of old people, but very few young people. Now, move on to the second question. What country has more potential to develop their economy better? We look at the working age population as the key. This time, you have to look at the working age population. Look at the size of the working age group. If the size of the working age group is large, Okay, and if you take a look at it, more likely in the near future, this young generation will move up to the working age group, so the size of working age group will get larger. My point is, if a country has large numbers of working age group people, the country will have higher potential of being able to develop their economy better. Okay? If there are a lot of working age people, it means that if we put them into work, we will have more productivity in the country, and we can sell those productivity to other countries and make more profit. There will be more money that add into our economic system. So the numbers of working age people tell us our own potential. If we could fasten our economic growth, if we could stabilize our economy or not. Okay? If you take a look at a lot of developed countries, they have more size of the working age people, and more likely in the near future, they may experience labor shortage because the size of the working age group will keep getting smaller and smaller. They will experience labor shortage. The next important thing that I'd like for you to mention in your answer. Even if a country has large numbers of working age population, if the government still fail to provide if the government fail to encourage more investment, people will not be put into jobs, but automatically these people will be categorized as unemployed. And then the government will have to come up with extra money to take care of unemployed people. These may cause the delay in the country development and economic development. Think of it this way, you have the human resource, okay? You have the people who are ready to work and help contribute to the increase in productivity. You have this ability. But then if there's no investment, people will not have job opportunity. They will be considered as unemployed. And it's the government duty to assist and take care of these unemployed people. Instead of making good use of these working age people, the government may have to be responsible for these unemployed people. Like I said, when people are unemployed, it's the government duty to sponsor these people and make sure that they are okay, they live reasonable life. The government may have to give them financial support. Okay? They may have to provide more basic infrastructure for these unemployed people so that they can survive. Right? This is an extra budget that the government have to come up with. My point is, if the country have less unemployment rate, the government could use this extra budget to do something else more important for the country to develop. Right? If we only have very few percentage of unemployment rate, it means that the majority of these extra budget can be used to improve technology in the country, can be used to provide better infrastructure for the country, can be used to improve education for our people. It can be used to provide more water supply, more electricity supply for people. People will have better standard of living. But as long as we cannot make good use of these working age people, these group of people will be the trouble to the government. The government have to be responsible for these people. They're going to have to come up with some budget to take care of these people. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money. That's why I said the numbers of working age group people can only tell the potential if the country can develop economy better or not. It's just a potential. If the government is smart enough and put these people into work, definitely the economy will improve. Now, to put these people into work, what do? We encourage more investment, both domestic investment and foreign investment. Government can encourage the citizen of the country, hey, come out, open up your business, open the stores, open the factories, right? If you have your business, maybe I will reduce taxes for you. Maybe I will give you other kinds of support. So encourage more investment. There will be more job opportunities for people. And sometimes domestic investment is not enough because domestic people, they do not have big capital to come up with large business. They may be able to come up with just small size of business. Like for example, if the government tell us now, hey guys, please open up business, help out your country. You may be able to afford to open a small restaurant, maybe 10 tables and things like that. That means you can only hire 5 or 10 people maximum. That means only 10 positions for people, for job opportunity for people, only 10. But with the foreigners, they have more capital, they have more investment. So whenever they come to our country, they generate more job opportunities for our people, right? So both domestic and international investment are to be considered. We have to draw them to come and invest in our country. Then there will be jobs for the people, and it means that we put these working age group people into work, productivity increase, economy is better. Last one, which country is more likely to experience labor shortage? Of course, it's the developed country. If the birth rate is low now, very soon it will affect the working age population. The numbers of the working age group will keep getting smaller and smaller. Guys, there are 3 ways that can help solve the labor shortage for the country. 3 ways that help solve the labor shortage in the country. Any country can choose whatever strategy, all right? But generally, there are 3 ways. First, if there's a labor shortage, a country can replace manpower with the technology. You can use the technology instead of manpower to continue your production. However, with the technology, it requires larger investment. Secondly, it requires better quality of human resource who can manage the technology. Let's say if Thailand is experiencing labor shortage right now, there are some rich investors out there in Thailand. They might be able to afford to buy the machine for the production. They might be able to afford that. But having money alone is not enough to fix the labor shortage problem. You need quality laborers or quality human resource who know how to manage the technology. You may purchase a machine, but if nobody knows how to operate it, how to maintain it, it will affect your productions anyway. You won't be able to produce. So investment and the quality of human resource should come together so that we can use technology to replace manpower. This is very important. Guys, not all the company, not all the factories can afford to purchase the technologies to manage their business, right? Because the technology is expensive. And sometimes you have to come up with big amount of money at front to purchase the machine. A lot of people may not have that. But if we compare the use of technologies and the manpower, in the long run, the use of technology helps save cost of production more. Let's say if you have 5 workers in your factory, you pay them 100 baht per day. You pay them 100 baht per day, right? That means each day you pay about 500 baht for these 5 workers. You pay them 500 baht every day. It means that you do not have to have big money to produce your product. You only have to have 500 baht to pay for the workers, and then they will produce products for you for sale. But if you buy the machine, you may have to come up with big money up front to purchase the machine. Let's say if the machine costs 5,000 baht. Remember, if you use the manpower, 500 baht a day. But this, you have to buy the machine. That means you have to come up with 5,000 baht for the machine right now in order for your production to continue. Okay, so it sounds like a big money at the beginning, but in the long run, using technology is a lot safer. Okay. Using manpower, you have to engage with long-term spending. You pay it every day for many years, until your business collapse. You have to pay them 500 baht, 500 baht. But with the machine, if you pay 5,000 baht, and you are expecting to have this company for the next 300 days, if you expected that you're going to finish this company within 300 days. So you use that 500 baht and divide it by 300 days. That's how much you pay for the technology for your production. Turns out that it may be about 10 baht. Or lesser than that, it may be about 10 baht that you have to spend for the machine to produce for you each day. But when you sum up the cost that you have to pay for the manpower, 500 baht for 300 days, how much it will be? Of course, it will be more expensive. Just that if you have big amount of money to spend upfront for the machine, it's a lot safer. And it can help solve your labor shortage issue right away. I'm not saying that this is the best solution. It depends on the budget that the company has, right? The second way that we can solve the labor shortage is we encourage the immigrants from the neighboring countries, okay, to come and take jobs in our own country. We use the immigrants. 2 types of immigrants. Okay. 2 types of immigrants. Legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. Okay. Sometimes we call it as legal foreign workers, illegal foreign workers. We use the term interchangeably and you understand it. Now guys, let me use the term legal and illegal foreign workers instead. Okay, easy to understand. Anyway, for legal workers, they will be protected by laws. They will be protected by the laws in the destination country. But those laws are not the same laws as what protect the citizen of the country. Like for example, we have hundreds of Thai laws that protect us, protect our rights, but we also have a lot of migrants, a lot of foreign workers that live in our country. We also have laws that protect them as well, but fewer numbers of laws that protect them. With the legal workers, foreign workers, we recognize their existence. We recognize their existence. That means we accept that they are here, they are in our system, right? They will be paid with the regular wages. They will be paid with the regular wages. Now, illegal workers, they are not in the system. They are not being recognized. They are not in the system. They are not being recognized. They do not have any permit or any passport or any allowance to stay and work legally in the destination country. Right? There's no laws that protect them. There's no law. No destination laws. No destination laws that protect them. The only laws that protect illegal workers are the international law or humanitarian laws. Humanitarian law or the international laws. Now, the humanitarian laws and international laws are not enforced in all countries. Depends if the country wants to adopt those humanitarian laws or international laws or not. The country can ignore the existence of international laws or humanitarian laws. But mostly developed countries, they recognize and they adopt international laws, humanitarian laws. Less developed countries like Thailand, of course, African countries, or many of Southeast Asian countries, we ignore the existence of these laws. So those illegal workers, okay, in our country, let's say in Thailand, they are not being protected. They are treated badly. Okay, they receive less wages compared to the legal worker or compared to the citizen of the country. Okay. What I'm trying to say next is consequences that the immigrants or the foreign worker bring to the destination country. The first issue is that the immigrant workers, they would interrupt with the origin culture at the destination. They will interrupt or disturb the origin culture at the destination. Like right now, we are receiving a lot of Cambodians, Burmese, Laos, immigrants that come and work in Thailand. These people, they bring along with them their culture, their way of life, their language. Okay, and then introduce those kind of way of life and culture to Thai people. And right now, they're disturbing a lot of the area in Thai culture. We are changing. We are blending with those cultures that they introduce to us. Our culture is losing the identity, losing its own significance. We're becoming more like the culture around us. We're becoming more like our neighbors now because we are now in contact with the neighboring cultures. That's the first consequence. The second consequence, these migrant workers, they cause the increase in higher consumption of natural resources in the destination country. Once again, they cause the increase in higher consumption of natural resources in the country. Guys, you gotta be aware that all the natural resources within our country belong to our citizens, belong to our next generation. We only have enough to accommodate our own people. But when we have more immigrants coming in, they fasten the decline of our natural resources. It means that they are now using up our resources, making it finish faster. We may not have enough left to pass on to our next generation. And it is very difficult to find out how much resources that they consume. Like I said, With the legal workers, we know who they are, where they are. We can maybe observe how much resources that they consume because they appear in the system. But those who are illegal, how do we know where they are? How do we know how many of them? How do we know what they consume? How much they consume? So any country that have large numbers of both legal and illegal immigrants, the amount of resources in the country may decline very quickly. Think of it this way too, that when you are a foreign to other countries, like if you live in other country, you may not feel so attached to that country. You may not feel that you belong to that country. You may feel that those resources are for you to use. You don't have to think about preserving it. You don't have to worry about if the resources will be enough for the rest of the people in the country or not, because these resources are not yours. Okay? It happens all the time when the Burmese, Laos, Cambodia come to Thailand. They use all kinds of resources and they're like, well, this is not part of my country. I just want to use it. Who cares? Okay? It's not my property. I'm just going to use it the way I want it. So the decline of natural resources is quite dramatic. Okay? Because people, the foreigners, they don't feel like they belong there. They don't feel like they're responsible for the decline. The next consequence is that these foreign workers may cause political conflict within the destination country. I'm going to use the case study of America. Now guys, America experienced quite a bad labor shortage situation. So the American government in the past allowed Mexicans to migrate into America and take jobs. Some of them are legal, some of them are illegal. Those Mexican people, they work hard. They know that America is not their country. They wanted to please their employer. So they work hard, they don't complain, they do a good job. They do not require higher wages. They're like, okay, you give me whatever you prefer, I'll take it. So a lot of businesses in America prefer to hire these Mexican workers. And turns out that now in many industries, in many businesses, the majority of the workers are Mexican, not the Americans. So in general, the Americans are now put out of their job. They now have less job opportunities than ever before, because most jobs are preserved for the Mexican themselves, right? A lot of American people, they made a complaint to the government to fix the problem. They're like, government, we're losing our job. The Mexicans are everywhere, taking our jobs. Now we don't have any income. We cannot stabilize ourselves. We cannot live a good life here. You gotta do something with it. And then the government take it to consideration. They look into the numbers of workers in the country. Turns out that yes, it's Mexican that are now occupying the job opportunities, occupying the workforce in America. So if the government were to come up with policies or regulations to drive the Mexican back home, these may cause the whole US economy to collapse, because most of the companies are now depending on Mexican. Imagine if the American government say no more Mexican working in the factories or in the company, this will definitely disturb the production. The Mexican require low wages. It helps save the cost of production for the employers or the owner of the factory. They say if you pay Americans to work, you may have to pay them with $20 per hour. But if you pay for the Mexican, they only ask for $10 per hour. That's a big difference right there. If you hire a Mexican, you save cost of your production. You can make more profit. You can survive in your business. So for American government to go around and tell the factories, tell the businesses that, hey, hire American, they're not going to fall for it. They're like, okay, why are you asking us to increase the cost of production? We don't want that. This is a free trade. This is a capitalist country. We should be free to manage our own business. Government cannot tell us who we should hire. All right? So, right now, the American government learned that they cannot get rid of the Mexican entirely. But at the same time, in order for American economy to keep growing, okay, to keep getting larger or keep growing, the government will have to give more support to these immigrants. They have to produce more policies that improve these immigrants' lives. So right now, if you take a look at policies, assistance, and help that the government, American government give to the Americans and give to the immigrants, they are quite the same. Sometimes the immigrant people are more privileged. They receive more support from the government than the citizens of the country. And this is causing conflicts, political conflicts within the country. A lot of Americans are trying to bring down the government for supporting the immigrant. But at the same time, the immigrant will come out supporting the government that give them all kinds of assistance. Okay, right now, they are in conflict. That's why I said, with immigrants, okay, once they come, they may cause political conflicts to happen in the destination country. The next consequence, the last one, the more immigrants or the more foreign workers that we have, the severe wages issue will be severe. Wages issue will be. I kind of mentioned it just now, that the citizens of the country, they are being protected by laws, right? They are being protected by laws. There are tons of worker rights laws to protect the workers from working longer hours, laws that encourage the business sector to provide basic needs, basic entertainment, basic facilities for the workers at work. Like for example, CP company. Okay, CP is now providing sports center for their workers, beautiful pantry with variety types of food for their workers, nursing department for their workers. Because Thai law, we are now making better worker rights law, making sure that the workers are being protected. Right? Workers are enjoying working for the company. So it means that the company has to invest more in providing all these, extra things for the workers. It becomes more expensive for the company. Because if they don't provide all these beautiful pantry, nursing department, or entertainment department for the workers, the worker may complain. Okay? The worker may say that the company is not supporting their rights, things like that. The company also has to pay for the workers' insurance. Right? If the worker have any kind of sickness, it's the company duty to care for their own workers. So things are so expensive, right? Because the citizens are being protected by the national laws. But like I said, that the government also provides certain laws to protect the foreigners, but they're not the same as the citizen law. The workers, the foreign workers, they know that this is not their country. They're not going to demand much. Right? They're not going to demand much. Even if the company don't provide them with food facility, it still be okay. They're not making a complaint. And plus, there's no law to tell the employers that you got to provide this for your foreign workers. There's no law about it. So the employers save costs. They don't have to care much for their workers. And plus, when the employer hires illegal workers, that's even better. There's no laws at all to protect these illegal workers. You can make them work longer hours and pay them less. When they get sick, let them deal with their own situation, deal with their own injury. No need to care for them. If one of your illegal workers die, then rehire another one quickly. You don't need to pay much on them, save costs. So hiring illegal immigrants became very popular for a lot of business sector because it saves cost of production, save a lot of money. They don't have to worry about violating any laws because there's no law to protect these illegal workers. So more and more illegal workers have more job opportunities than the citizen of the country. And they disturb the wages system in the country. In Thailand, as an example, the minimum wage is 300 baht. Thai people already complain, 300 baht is not enough, we want more wages, we want more money. But at the same time, illegal workers, they're like, okay, less than 300 baht, we can still take it because it's better than us being at home and earn maybe 10 or 20 baht a day. Those illegal workers, they accept low wages. Right? They accept low wages. So for Thai workers to get a job and ask for more pay, it will be difficult now. Because the employer think that they have other options, they can hire illegal workers, it's cheaper. That's why I said it disturbs the wage system in Thailand. Imagine if there's no illegal workers and only legal workers and the citizens of the country that work, maybe they could push for the business sector to help, push for the business sector to increase the wages. Because the business sector will have no other options. They cannot turn to anyone else but to hire the citizen of the country. So whenever we have illegal immigrants, a lot of illegal immigrants in the country, the wages tend to be very low. And it's going to be very hard for the citizen of the country to get a job. Last technique that we use to solve labor shortage, last technique, is for the country to encourage the increase in birth rate. Encourage people to have more babies. This is actually best, but takes so much time for it to happen. With the first two techniques, you can see the immediate result right away. Like if you use the technology, you can continue to produce right away. Or if you use immigrant workers, you can use them and continue your production right away. Immediate results. But if you encourage your people to give birth, you will have to wait 10 years, 20 years for these young children to grow up into adulthood or into the working age. It takes time, but that's actually the best way though. Because you don't have to deal with immigrants. Okay? You don't have to deal with all those consequences that I just mentioned. You don't have to deal with that. And then you don't also have to deal with having to have big investment for the technology. You can still continue to use manpower. Okay? So that's it. Any question, let me know. ยาวหน่อยนะวันนี้อันนี้ไม่มีอะไร Okay, this one ค่ะ take note carefully. Numbers of population influence people behavior and characters in the area. The numbers of population influence people behavior and characters in the area. I'm going to use two case studies. The first case study is the urban area. Now, the urban area usually has high numbers of population or high density of population. High numbers of population, high density of population. The resources are very few in the urban area. Not a lot of resources, okay? Less space available for people. Less green area, urban area. Cost of the land are very expensive. Hospital lands are very expensive. Taxes are high compared to taxes in the rural area. So taxes in the cities are high. When there's a lot of population living in the urban area, in order for everyone to survive, they have to fight hard. They have to be active. They have to be very active, competitive, competitive. For some time, they have to be aggressive. Otherwise, they will not get the things that they need. Like I said, resources are very few. Infrastructures are not enough for everyone. If you slow, if you lay back, you won't make it in the city. Right? Think of the rush hour on the BTS. Just like what you see in the probably in the movie, like in New York or in Tokyo during the rush hour. You have to squeeze yourself into the BTS. You have to be aggressive. Otherwise, you won't get a space. You won't be able to make it to work on time. So what I'm trying to say is that the numbers of population cause people to be aggressive, active, or competitive. In the rural area, in the remote area where a lot of resources are available, spaces are available, lands are cheap, okay? There are not a lot of people living in the rural area. If you try to look back into the images of the rural area that you have seen before, houses are apart from one another, roads are quite empty, right? Things are quite lenient, things are quite laid back in the rural area. So people who live in the rural area are less competitive, they're quite laid back, very slow life, sort of, less competition. Jobs are available for people, they can take jobs, they don't have to wait in line for the interview or anything like that. Lives are more comfortable. Okay, so numbers of population shape people behavior. Now, distribution of population. Highlight this. I will ask one question related to this. I'll give you an example of the question in a second. Distribution of population refer to locations that people could be found. Okay, locations that the community or the people could be found. Distribution of population also associated with the density of population. It associated with the density of population. I'll give you an example in a second. The important point I'm going to talk about important point for this part. Economic activity is one of the key factors that influence the level of density of population and the location of the population. Economic activity influence the density of the population level for the location of the population. Any capitalist area, any capitalist area, the numbers of population tend to be very high, and so as the density of the population. The density of the population and the numbers of population are often high in the capitalist area. Most of the capitalist areas are located in the major city. Alright, so in a major city where they practice capitalist activities, a lot of people could be found. And people are packed in one small area. Okay, the reason why capitalist activity cause high density of population is that it's a kind of, the capitalist activity is a kind of activity that do not require big space, do not require big resources. But people who participate in capitalist activities can make much profit or much income from it. If you take a look at Asok area in Bangkok, within one building, it has many companies in it, and thousands of people are working in that one building. You see now that the capitalist activities, they don't require big space to make money, to make income or anything like that. They only need a small space. Like if you are sitting in a company in a store, you only have one small table like this, but you can generate a lot of income from your computer. You can make much income. And then right next to you will be your co-workers, your colleagues, like hundreds, thousands of people are working in the same building with different companies. Now another case study, rural area. Rural area, most people practice agriculture. It is the kind of activities that require large spaces and large amount of natural resources. Right? If you want to produce rice, you may have to have at least 2 or 3 acres. So the big size of land that you own, keep a distance from you and your neighbor. A big size of plantation that you own, make you be apart from your neighbor or keep a distance from you and your neighbor. Imagine it this way. Your plantation is this size and your house may be right here. And then your neighbor may also have another land right here, big size. So your house right here, your neighbor house right here. That's a big distance. So low density of population. Low density and less numbers of population compared to the city. Low density, lower numbers of population in the city. Thinking of what else we need to discuss. Hold on,นะคะ ลบไปก่อนเดี๋ยวลืม The distribution of the population can be controlled by the government. It can be controlled by the government. if the density of population is high, the standard of living for people usually very poor. If there's a high density population, the people's standard of living is very low, very poor. Now, it is a government duty to fix these low standard of living. Government have to do something to raise people's standard of living. Okay? For example, the government may have to provide more infrastructure so that everyone can have access to it. Everyone can be comfortable with it. What I'm saying is that the government will have to put it down. Take a look at Bangkok. Very high density population. Most people who live in Bangkok have very low standard of living. So if the government wants people to be comfortable, they have to provide more roads, build more roads, provide more public transportation, make sure that there's clean water in every household, electricity that runs 24 hours continuously, good health care, good education for everyone. Now guys, providing more infrastructure and basic needs like this costs big amount of money. And sometimes the government cannot afford it. The traffic is always bad around Sukhumvit Road, right? Around Asok, that area, traffic is very bad. Some people said, well, that's because we don't have enough road. But guys, if the government were to build a road around, another lane in Sukhumvit Road, that would cause the whole Thai economy to collapse. Because the cost of land around that area is super expensive. Very, very expensive. One ride, I don't know if you ever noticed, one ride around Sukhumvit would cost over a few $100 million. If you were to build a road along Sukhumvit line, another road parallel with Sukhumvit line, that's like millions and millions of baht that you have to invest. And plus, the whole area is so packed with the residential area, a lot of condominium, a lot of, let's say, the companies and things like that. There are a lot of fancy condominiums around Sukhumvit. If the government were to take one condominium down so that they can have a space to build a road, they have to pay for the compensation for each individual owner of the condominium. The cost of condominium around Sukhumvit start from 5 million baht or above, or 4 million baht or above. And if the government have to torn down or take down a luxury condo that costs 200 million baht per unit, if they have 200 units, so 200 units times 200 million baht, that's how much the government have to pay for the compensation. Not even, this is just to pay for the compensation. What about the cost of the road that they have to invest? It's going to be too much, too expensive to provide all these things for the people in the city. The government sometimes use a strategy to encourage people to move out from the city so that people can have higher standard of living. Like what we are doing right now, we try to develop the outskirts of Bangkok, like Ratchaprut area. We provide reasonable road, Pran Nok Jalan. That's the new road that we build so that people can travel more convenient. Better water facility, electricity supplies, a lot of community malls, a few gardens a few parks that people can enjoy their life. Okay, so by improving the infrastructure in this outskirts area, some of the people who live in the city decided to move out and live in the suburb or live in the outskirts of Bangkok. Okay, that's the strategy that the government used once again. Instead of providing better infrastructure in the city, it's too expensive. The government provide better infrastructure in the outskirts and hoping for people to move out to reduce the density in Bangkok. It works. A lot of people move out. A lot of them move out. That's another strategy that the government can reduce the density of population. But to do this strategy, the government needs to learn why are people living in Bangkok. They gotta learn that there are a lot of people living in Bangkok. What kind of thing that attract people to be in Bangkok? It could be the job opportunity, more job opportunity available in Bangkok. Higher income in Bangkok. If the government learn that, maybe they can establish more job opportunity in other provinces so that the people don't have to migrate to Bangkok. They can still stay at home and have access to job opportunity. In terms of income differences, you are the worker, let's say you are the waitress. If you are specialized in waiting the table, if you work in Bangkok, you get about 20,000 baht per month. And that's very attractive. You may move from your hometown to Bangkok to get a job. But if the government equalize the salary for the people, like even if you work in Udon Thani and being a server, you will get the same income, same salary as if you were to move to Bangkok and work at the waitress at the restaurant. If the government can equalize the income and provide more job opportunities throughout the country, the density of population will reduce. And the density of population will reduce. It will not be so packed, okay, in certain spots. Now, that's one point that I missed about the numbers of population, guys. Important here as well. Another significant about the numbers of population is that it influences the level of the city or the country development. The more numbers of population, the more threat to the government to do something to accommodate the people. All right, the more threat that it's like a threat to the government to do something to accommodate the people. However, the numbers of population can give threat to the government in the developed country more than in the less developed country. Now guys, in Africa, they have large numbers of population, but the government are quite careless for their own people well-being. They ignore their own duties and they have to care for their own people. That's what happened in Africa. So it doesn't matter how many numbers of population in the country. The government said, so what? We're just going to corrupt. We are here to corrupt. We are here to exploit all things for our own pockets. But in developed countries, when there's a high number of population, this is a threat to the government. The more numbers of population, the more development will be. I will use Singapore as an example of the developed country that experience the threat from the numbers of population. As we all know, Singapore is a very small country. They have very few resources, very few spaces for the people. So, in order to make Singaporean people comfortable and live good life, the Singaporean government used technology to help manage things in the country. For example, instead of allowing people to live or build a house on the land, the Singaporean government said, no, this is a waste of land. We cannot have the people building homes like this, okay? Or we have limited size of land. If we allow farmers to grow big plantations like that, it's a waste of land. What about other people who do not have land? How are they going to survive? So the Singaporean government used technology to manage things. Like I said, instead of having regular plantations. They make it vertical plantation, growing, let's say like vertical, go up, have a new kind of plantation, and they use automatic water machine to give the water to the plants. Very high technology of fertilizers that help the plants produce more, use less of the soil, things like that. And also with the housing, instead of building the homes on the ground, on the land, now most Singaporean people live in a condominium, high-story condominium that has all kinds of facilities inside, even a small garden inside of the building. Sports center, shopping mall, market, all kinds of things in the building. We can only do that if we have the technology. So the numbers of population can push for the government to develop the city by implement more or use more of technology for the management. That's it that I miss out. Example of the question.เราเขียนเอาอันใหญ่ๆพี่จะปล่อยเราพี่ปวดหัวถ่ายรูปวันนี้ก่อนได้ปะคือสอนไปสอนมาก็เหนื่อยเหมือนกันปวดหัวอ่ะถ่ายรูปก่อนกด next class ไอ้นะไว้ก่อนเอาข้างหน้าค่อยนั้นเตือนพี่ด้วยเพราะพี่จะลืมโอเคนะถ่ายแล้วนะอันนี้ชัวร์100% you see this question ชัวร์หายไปไหนวะอีกอันนึงอันนี้ก็ชัวร์ครั้งหน้า next time มีเวลานะวันที่18 the exam is on the 18 from 3 to 6 p.m. there are a lot of questions that you have to manage so start practicingคำถามต่อไปนะคะนี่นะข้อหนึ่งอันนี้จดไว้เหมือนกันผมลืมกลับบ้านได้ต้องขอโทษด้วยที่ทำให้แบบว่าซัฟเฟอร์แต่ว่ามันจำเป็นจริงๆ
อ่านหรือเปล่า